know this one? Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a fancy marriage. Did I get that right? And stylish. It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage. But you will sleep upon the seat of a bicycle built for two. Raise your hand if you knew that one. Most of us. My grandpa used to go through the house singing this song. In first grade, we used to sing songs like this before we all stood up and said the Pledge of Allegiance. A bicycle built for two. I'm pretty sure when I was 6 years old, I didn't see it as a metaphor. I thought of it as a sort of a straightforward, right? A sort of a literal statement. I can't afford a carriage, so it won't be stylish, but the two of us can get married and be on a bicycle built for two. It was only much later that I realized that a bicycle built for two is really a wonderful image for a partnership, isn't it? Much better in some ways than a carriage. After all, in some sense, if you're in a carriage in partnership with someone, maybe you're the one that's kind of enclosed in the area, and the other person's way up front. They get to see the sky, they get to see the road, they do all the steering, and here you are on the inside. And if it's not that way, maybe both of you are in the inside, and you don't get to see any of the rest of the world. You're just being kind of dragged forward and pulled forward by the carriage, right? Whatever the carriage might represent. But a bicycle built for two, now that's a nice image for a partnership. Here we are, both of us, under the same sky. We can both see the same road. When it's time to turn, we both have to turn in concert and lean so that we can make the turn just right. Both of us are pedaling. And if one of us gets tired, we can pedal a little less, and the other person will pedal just a little bit more. And you can actually switch it the other way too. Maybe the person in front wants to pedal a little less, and then you can pedal just a little bit more. It's a wonderful image for a partnership. This idea of sort of this path, this cart, this traveling forward, which is a burden that is shared. Today, Jesus is talking about, in some ways, exactly the opposite. He's talking to the crowds, he's talking to the people. I'm looking especially at this last paragraph. When he's calling people to him, he's saying, all of you who are burdened, like heavy burdened, right? And under great pressure, come to me. And why is that? Because Jesus understands the burdens that you carry. Jesus understands the burdens that we carry. He knows it as the Son of God, and he knows it as a human being who has eyes, and who has brothers and sisters and family. As a man who has friends. We only have to open our eyes to see each other's burdens. The burdens that we can recognize and know about, and also we can be aware of the burdens that the eyes don't necessarily see. Right? Burdens of pressure or burdens of stress. Some people are under great burdens that involve finances, and they're not sure how they're going to get through, how they're going to get on. There's the burdens we have of illness, our own illness, or someone else's illness, a partner or a friend. There's burdens that we have from work. There's burdens of worry that we have for children or for friends or for people in difficult circumstances. There's the burdens we have from the past that we continue to carry. There's the burdens of worry about what the future might bring. All of these things we have on our shoulders, everyone. And if you want to have eyes that see in the Spirit, can we say that? Or maybe a little more sort of practically, if you want to have eyes that sort of see in symbol, you can imagine each of us with great boxes and burdens and crates on our shoulders, all of us trying to balance them and all of us trying to carry them. Can you imagine this congregation and just see boxes on everybody's shoulders? Can you imagine a shopping mall or an airport somewhere where there might be crowds of people, and just with your spiritual eyes look and for a moment see all of the burdens that these people are carrying? Maybe not only on their shoulders, but maybe they're also dragging them behind them. Maybe they're dragging them on carts. Maybe they're dragging them on, what are those things that the Native Americans use with just sort of like two sticks? right? And then the board's across, and you put the stuff on, and as you drag them, it just leaves these 2 scars on the ground as you're pulling these burdens along. Somehow or other, here we all are, pulling and trying to bear up and trying to make do, trying to make progress, trying to carry on. In the midst of all of this, we have Jesus who looks at us and calls us to him, and then seemingly says, take my yoke upon you. Did anybody think, my yoke's enough? I got to take Jesus' yoke too? Is that how you see it? Where Jesus is like, well, here, take my burden. Here, let's switch. Well, that might be nice, but I'm not looking for more burdens, right? I'm not looking for more carrying. And in fact, I want to suggest to you that that's actually not what Jesus means. He's not saying, take my yoke upon you. Jesus is sort of lifting it and saying, here, try this out. I mean, come on, it's the Son of God. Think I can carry the Son of God's burdens? You think being a human being is hard? Try going up to the cross. Try carrying the sins of the world. Jesus, I can't take your yoke. And I'm pretty sure it's not light. It looks like it's awfully heavy from here. In fact, that's not what Jesus is asking us to do. And it's not what Jesus is suggesting. Did a little Google image search. This week for a yoke. By the way, if there's any kids in the congregation, we're not talking about eggs. This is Y-O-K-E, a yoke. This is a piece of wood that you put sometimes over people, which has arms. And if it's over people, it's got a very small kind of opening like this. You put over your neck, and then it's got these arms. And what it lets you do is hang a bunch of things on these wooden arms. And so you can carry it like this, and as long as you've got strong legs, you can carry a whole bunch of burdens. But most of the time, it's not people who are carrying yokes. It's what? What animal usually carries a yoke? Oxen. You guys, isn't it amazing the things we know? Did you know you knew that? Here we are. We all knew it was oxen. And I did a little Google image search on yokes. And you know what I found? I found a whole bunch of oxen, a bunch of really good-looking oxes. But also, every single one, I scrolled past about 50 and I stopped. Every single yoke with oxen had not 1 ox, but 2. Every single one it's a 2-ox yoke. I did another search. I was like, how common is it to have a single yoke for an ox? And the answer was incredibly uncommon. It's a terrible idea. It's kind of like how many people buy terribly underpowered cars? You can find them, but you don't want them. Right? You've been behind one trying to get on 75. You're like, is their foot all the way down or what? This is not acceleration. It can be a little dangerous having an underpowered car. It can be hard to get from here to there. It turns out when you have to do something serious with oxen, 2 is always better. Are you surprised? I just pictured Jesus with a yoke. But what he's actually talking about is he's on one side and here's a big empty spot. Jesus isn't saying, take my yoke instead of yours or in addition to yours. Jesus is saying, hey, buddy, come on over here. There's a perfect spot for you. Let's share this load together. Let's share this load together, you and me. And all of a sudden it starts to sound like a pretty good deal. Because this is the Son of God we're talking about. We're talking about 800 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower. I mean, you know Jesus has got some power in those legs. This guy can carry the sins of the world. He can carry your stuff, no problem. This guy is carrying the burden of having to go all the way up to the cross when the whole world hates him. He can handle helping you carry the burden of the ill family member or of the challenge that you're experiencing in your personal life. And in fact, it's exactly what he wants to do. This is like the one oxen saying to the other oxen, hey, come on over here, buddy, and let's do this together. It's like, all right, Jesus wants us to come and put his yoke on, take our burdens, throw them on the back of his carriage. And he goes on to say, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. And now we start to learn a little bit about how oxen work. Because what you would typically want to have is you'd want to have an older, wise ox that knows exactly what it's doing, and then you're going to take a green ox, not literally, a green ox, right? A brand new ox. And we're going to put that one in, and you know what they're going to do? The one's going to teach the other. Because everywhere they go, they're going to go together. The experienced ox, the strong ox, is probably going to do most of the work, but the secondary one is going to watch, is going to learn. When the secondary ox is getting too weak because it's new to the job, the old and powerful one will continue to pull and carry. And when it comes time to do things that you have to do together, well, then both of you will strive together, and it will be much easier with two than with one. How many times have you considered whether you want a 4-wheel drive car or a 2-wheel drive car? It's better with 4 wheels. Because when you've got the 4 wheels going, you've got twice the traction, right? You've got twice the power, twice the energy going into the ground. When you've got 2 oxen, it's so much easier than when you have one. Jesus is inviting us to come and join him, to join your life to him, to join your burdens to him, and to let Christ carry that load, to let Christ show you the way and carry the way forward. He's that secondary ox for you. You're the green one. He's the one that already knows the field. Christ is going to start to lean to the right when it's time to go right. And you're going to feel it on the yoke. You're going to feel the burden shifting, and all you got to do is go along with it. And he's going to take you right in the direction where you need to go, to get the work done, to get the work done well, to get that load carried all the way to the end with nothing falling off the sides. I'm going to suggest to you that it's even one step better. This offering that Jesus is giving us is even better than it sounds. Because we're thinking of yoking ourselves to Christ, but Jesus Christ himself is carrying a yoke. Who's Jesus yoked to? Jesus is yoked to the Father. Jesus is yoked to the Holy Spirit. The 3 in 1, but we're talking about a super mighty mega ox. This ox is 3 oxes in 1. It's the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. That's who we're talking about. You're not yoking yourself just to Christ. You're yoking yourself to the Spirit. You're yoking yourself to the Father, the creator of the universe. You are tying yourself to the one who created all things, who has promised that in the end it will be well. This is why Jesus is so earnest about the offer. Looking around at you and everyone else trying to carry their burdens, all he can think is, all of you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, come to me. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For my yoke, my burden, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And what else? And you will find rest for your souls. A 2-ox cart is not the easiest thing to imagine, and it's not the most obvious thing in our culture. So if it works better for you, I'm going to suggest that keep in mind not necessarily the ox cart, but maybe a bicycle built for 2. How'd you like to be on a bicycle built for 2 with the Son of God? I'm going to recommend you put him in front. And then you can be here in the secondary path. Both of you will get handlebars, and you and Jesus can go off into the sunset with looking sweet, with your tush on that seat, under the same sky, on the same road, with those powerful legs of the Son of God hauling you and all your burdens all the way to the end. If that sounds good, let's do it together. Amen.
Amen.